Self-aware millennial.
Let's talk a little bit about doing sex work during COVID-19.
Sure.
Because I do feel like, however, I feel like sex workers of all people, and maybe just folks that have sex with a lot of other people a lot, they're already very cautious about their safety when it comes to their sexual health in the first place. So to be safe about not catching COVID, I feel like I wouldn't say it's more difficult. I just feel like it's just already part of the game anyway.
Yes.
You're already risking yourself either way from just even being present with them. You have to I guess, I don't know, what the precautions are in that regard. You just kind of assume the risk and.
I mean, I guess I don't know what everyone is doing. I feel like what I practice and what I've heard from some other people, obviously regular testing, regular STI testing has always been a thing, but regular COVID testing. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, in and around New Orleans, it's pretty easy to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of my practice, what I started with a, massage practice out of the studio that's in the front of my house. And, my precautions were basically get tested every 2 weeks, which, I could probably be getting tested more than that. But to me, that feels like a reasonable...
2 weeks is good. Yeah.
It's a reasonable schedule to be on. And not seeing more than one person a day. So being more kind of selective and spacing people out. Obviously, when I'm using my table, I'm covering it with sheets when I'm using it, which is standard massage practice, but then also sterilizing it twice right after using it, washing everything, being very consistent about that, opening the front door while everything is being cleaned and airing out. In the couple of instances where I've seen more than one person for basically let's say a level 1 erotic massage, because there are different there's different scales.
I've never had that kind of massage before, but I've heard so many things about it.
It's good. It is good. It's good, because that's another thing that I want to bring into the conversation. It's I'll keep talking about safety, but normalizing also patronizing sex workers, being a patron of sex workers. I feel like there's so much stigma around people who are in our cohort or a little bit older than us, and people who maybe consider themselves to be good looking or attractive enough to be able to not pay for sex or whatever. And I'm y'all are looking at this all wrong. This is that. First of all, that is so stigmatizing in terms of both the work that sex workers are doing, to act there's some aspect of it where you are,
too good to not pay.
Yeah, exactly. What's
too cute to not pay?
But also, it's stigmatizing to people who go to sex workers for whatever service they're asking for. It's a misunderstanding of why that industry is there to begin with, because as we know, it's the world's oldest profession, or that I feel like that's an aspect of the conversation. It's been around for a long time.
Yep.
But to me, it's so I'll share a little story. I actually thought I was going to a sex worker earlier this week because a friend of mine had described going to this person, and that they practiced an integrated but sensual massage. And I was cool. And then they told me everything about it and how incredible it was, and how this person, has many years of massage practice and has been trained in Hawaii and Thailand, and does worked as a chiropractor's assistant for a while, so they can crack all your joints and your body and everything and all that. And I was sign me up for that. And it's erotic on top of it. Yes.
So what makes it okay? Sorry. What makes it erotic?
So what makes it erotic is to me, it's a focus on sexual energy. So
okay.
but it's not exclusively a focus on sexual energy, because to me and to people who practice body work is like playing with moving energy around the body, right?
Okay.
And like trying to find places where energy has become stagnant or static.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you can detect that in different ways, depending on what your training is. You can feel it a lot of the time in the body, like in the form of just like very, very stiff muscle, or kind of compromised muscle fibers, knots, as we call them. That's like a place where energy has been stagnated. And then there's other, you know, aspects of it, like the myofascia, which is like a kind of thin layer of liquid, sort of a liquid layer that kind of surrounds all of your muscle fibers and also your bones. Mm-hmm. And that can get stopped up and blocked. So literally just rubbing, like kind of moving your hands over the body with pressure can just like move that around, and can really have can have a major impact just on your overall like energy level, your mood, everything.
Cool.
So an erotic massage would be concentrating on that in the body, but really like intentionally also thinking about, you know, your erogenous zones, which are all over the place.
Yeah.
And then, you know, concentrating obviously like on the pelvic area. And then that's where, like, you know, if I'm giving someone an erotic massage, then we're talking very specifically beforehand about what they are looking for. Like, what does that mean to them? Because I said level 1 erotic massage, like I don't really do it like that, but there's like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and then like the, you know, the whole shebang, the
shebang, like
the shebang, the shebang.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And so, but anyway, so I went to this person, for, and those, so there would be very clear consent around like, how do you like to be touched? You know, all of my erotic massage clients have been AMAB people, or like folks with penises. So, you know, I'm talking about like, do you like to have your asshole played with? Like, do you like, what are your boundaries? What are your yeses and what are your nos?
I love that.
And we obviously talk about, yes. And we talk about, because I mean, it's for them and it's for me, because I don't want to start doing something that I'm like, okay, like I feel like the body is kind of calling on me to do this thing, but then you're going to be like, I actually have never had a finger in my booty before. And now the whole vibe, I've been moving energy the whole time, and now the energy is dropped.
Right.
And now we have to build up from square one again. So I don't want to do that. And also
block the blessing, because you had
and then also there's obviously like going to be a pay scale difference depending on what the service is.
For sure.
But I went to this person, and they I was so excited because I was like, I want to know what they do. I want to experience this. Like, I want to give myself over to somebody else. And this is what I think is a way that I understand sex work. And also just like calling myself out on, I'm pretty new to this work. So I'm like not an authority on sex work. I can only talk about like the little bit that I've done. Yeah. And there are people who have been doing it for much longer who like would have so much more to say, and so much more to say about the politics of it, and the, you know, more of the safety concerns, and, you know, would have like horror stories to tell, and like hilarious story, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But I really feel like sex work is healing work. I feel like sex workers are healers. I feel like they always have been healers.
I agree with you.
And I feel that there is something that is so beautiful about, you know, going to somebody who calls themselves an expert in a practice. So if it's a sex worker who's like, yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. Like, I know what I'm doing. This is my rate. Like, I have this thing that I'm going to do with you. Like, I want to experience that. Like, I want to experience your magic. And like, yes, that's your job. I will pay you for it. Like, that sounds great. And to surrender yourself to someone else's hands. I mean, that's also like why I think power play is so interesting to people, and like the sub-dom relationship, even if it's somebody who you wouldn't necessarily would, by meeting them, expect. You wouldn't stereotype them as a sub. There can be something that is so nice about just like releasing into someone else's care and being like, you like, I want you to like move energy in my body. Like, I feel like something's probably stuck in me. Like, this is your practice. Sexual energy is powerful as fuck. And it can be used. It really can be used. I mean, and I'm, again, not an expert on this. There are people who like study, who are yogis, who have read about Kundalini and all that stuff, and they practice. But sexual energy, if it is like accessed and used properly, it can literally like blow open all your other chakras. Like, it can just like move through the energy channels in your body and just like open you up fully. I don't think it's used like that most of the time.
It is not. It's not.
But I think
I only know this because like the people I've had sex with, I mean, like, God, like,
yes.
Nothing, like, I have no issue with like anyone I've had sex with, but like I could definitely tell there's others that like again open me up more than others, because like some people are only going by like a format that everybody knows.
Exactly.
And then others know how to explore the rest, and I do the same thing.
Yes.
Like, if I see something's not working for you, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try over here. Oh, you didn't think I was going to your inner thigh? Yeah, your inner thigh. Oh, you like I go into like different areas that they're not used to.
Yes.
But normally it's something they're just like, oh.
Yes.
So just like exploring the rest and not just going straight to.
Right. And that's I think another like service that sex workers are providing, that like we live in such a porn centered culture where so many people learn, and like an abstinence only culture, and like so many other shame culture, all the things that you've probably already talked about on the show, so we don't need to go deep into them.
Dibble dabbled in
but that people do not have a vocabulary for they don't have a vocabulary for like all of the ways that you can touch people, and all the places that you could be touched, all the things that would be pleasurable to you, and playing with amounts of pressure, and playing with like using different parts of your hand, or using your hair. You can literally use your hair to stimulate someone's body in such a pleasurable way that you don't see that in porn. You would never see that in porn. But like like those of us who have like kind of thicker curly hair, you can literally run it along someone's body, and it is so, if someone likes to be touched that way, it drives people wild. So there's like things that sex down.
I gotta remember this.
There's things that sex workers can offer to folks that will pull you away from the porn-centered culture that you are used to, and can actually like broaden your own relationship with your body, broaden your own relationship with your pleasure, broaden your own relationship with the kind of pleasure that you will try to practice with another person. Instead of just like going right for the inner thigh, or just like sticking your finger in or whatever, like you'll understand, oh, I can actually like play with their energy centers. I can like stimulate their nerve endings so that by the time I get to the inner thigh, they're literally like, I don't have to do so much as stick a finger in and then someone's having an orgasm. Like, because everything is heightened already, So I think that's magic that sex workers do. I think sex workers are healers. I think that sex workers are revolutionaries. Not all the time. Some people are just trying to pay the bills, and that's cool too. And it's funny. I don't think that before the pandemic I would have saw myself, necessarily in this work. I've always kind of had a fantasy since I started having sex with men, which was not, my whole life. It was actually when I moved to New Orleans is when I started. I
could talk to you all night.
I know, we have so much to talk about. Yes. Okay. Yes. But I had a little peek on a clip that you put on Instagram from, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, about the person talking about like having orgasms just from like getting fucked.
Yeah. They said, no, they were basically talking about how they don't ejaculate But that makes more sense, especially that makes sense. It makes sense now. But I was like, back then I was like, what?
Yeah, there's that. I mean, that's a whole thing. And also like pleasure looks so different for so many people. And like, not everyone needs to have like a whole tantric ass experience. Like, some people really just want like you to come on their face or whatever. And that's fine. But that's some
people just need the visual. Some people just want to come on your tits and they want to see the visual. Like everybody has their own.
Yes. And it's all good as long as there's consent, as long as we're all kind of in it together. We understand what's happening and we understand the power dynamics here. But I've always fantasized about like doing, I don't know how I would do this, but I want to do a video like I think it would be specifically for people with penises who have anal sex or who are receptive, anal or bottoms as bottoms, on how to have an orgasm from getting fucked. Because I feel that it is probably possible for more people than are aware. It's this thing in the, I'm moving it. Stop me if I'm like moving into too many different topics or whatever.
I don't care.
I'm just like having so much fun.
Okay. I might even make this a 2-part episode. I don't care.
This is so fun. This is so fun. With it. Yeah, I love this. Like, and we should definitely do this again.
Agreed.
But it's this thing in the like, I'll say in the gay community where, you know, there's this like glorification or this desire for bottoms to be able to ejaculate just from getting fucked. And it's this kind of unicorn.
What Kaven told me about this on the Patreon episode.
Yes. And it's kind of like, it's like a unicorn. It seems to be like more of a unicorn situation. Like people are like, you know, I've always wanted to, but I can't, or like, I've always wanted to experience that as a top. And listen, ladies, I think you guys are just doing it wrong. And it's really, I think it is actually probably possible for more people. And I will say that because like I experience it pretty regularly, but it's not a passive thing. It's not a passive experience. There's work that's going on internally to make it happen.
Yeah, you have to be in a mindset, right? You have to
mindset, but it's not even that. It's literally a muscular thing that's going on. Like, you know about Kegels for women.
Yes.
Like Kegels, like it's something that you can do to strengthen, for anyone who's watching the show and is not aware, to strengthen the muscles of your pelvic floor, your vagina, your vaginal walls, all of that. Yeah. And it's like a clenching thing. People with penises can do those muscles too, those exercises too, and it strengthens your whole pelvic floor region. And that I feel like is often advertised more in terms of like ejaculatory control, like helping people to like have more control over their orgasm. Because if you like clench at a certain time, you can stop yourself from releasing fluid.
Yeah.
But what I think is not talked about is that one of the ways of sort of activating your prostate as a male or as a person with a penis,
I call them penis owners.
Penis owners, or I like the term AMAB, assigned male at birth, because it feels like broader. It includes, obviously, could include trans women as well. And it's basically by like clenching and releasing, you are moving your prostate, because your prostate is like connected to the muscular structure in there. And if you do that in conjunction with how you are thrusting and how you're angling your body, so that your body is moving against whatever the object is that's inside of you. You are clenching, so you're moving your prostate, and then you are also kind of directionally moving your body. You are enhancing the amount of stimulation on your prostate by like 10-fold, literally just by doing these three things. And there's a rhythmic aspect. I mean, I'm a rhythmic person, as you know, so I'm always thinking there's like a rocking and a clenching and a releasing and an angling thing that is going on at the same time. And I really think like
that reminds me of a really good vibrator.
Yes. And actually, yes, totally. And there is, I mean, you could practice with a toy. There are a couple of toys. What are they called? Is it called I think it's called the Aneros, Aneros. Aneros. I'm looking it up. It's a prostate massager that like is supposedly molded to like fit what the inside of your colon looks like, even though I'm sure that everyone's inside looks different. But the whole way that toy works is via Kegels. Via Kegels. Like it doesn't have a vibrator in it. The whole thing about it is you insert it and then you clench, hold, release, and you can rock your body a little bit and literally can bring yourself to a prostate or anal orgasm just by work. You have to take time, you have to strengthen your muscles, but over time, and it's a great way to train your muscles too. So
do y'all hear that, penis owners?
So it really, because I think that a lot of people who receive anal sex, what you're saying about the mental space, that's important. You have to be relaxed. And there's also a lot of pleasure for people who are bottoms in terms of like, knowing that you are giving somebody else pleasure. Like, I think a lot of people get off on that, just like being basically like a receptacle. And that's really enjoyable. But that's not what it is for me. For me, it is deeply physically pleasurable, but that's also because I make it that way. It's because I make it that way. Like,
gotcha.
People might not necessarily know what they're doing, but if I know what I'm doing and what's going on with my body, it's always going to feel amazing. So I want to give that gift. I want to give that gift to people. I don't know what that tutorial video would look like. I feel like it might have to be like on Pornhub or an OnlyFans situation.
Well, I got a video camera and I can. I will help you. We gonna make this work. Yes. I mean, this toy right here. I'm looking at it right now. Like it doesn't look as intimidating as it.
No, it's very thin. It's very thin. Yeah. It is, and it would be good, if somebody has not, ever put something in their butt that's a toy. It's a good way to start
because open up.
Yes, exactly. It's not big, and it just goes to the place that it needs to go. It's not going to go any further. Even if you're a AMAB person and you're not into like douching or cleanliness, like it's probably not going to go up far enough even for it to like encounter shit. So.
I love how it says in here, like they're saying, like, having this toy will help you have a healthy prostate.
Yes.
Which is the thing. I didn't know prostates could be healthy.
Yes, they can be. Like, we have them for a reason. We have them for a reason, I believe. So, there's a whole universe of things that are, and I don't have a huge toy collection at all. I feel like I wish that I had more toys. Honestly, if anyone's watching and they're like excited about meeting me, they like, if you like my looks, or you like what I'm saying, you want to buy me a toy, I will receive it.
This toy, everybody.
Right. Well, I have that one. I have that one, but you can get
another one. Get one for yourself.
Yes, get one for yourself. Exactly.
I can play around together.
Right. Can Anaros sponsor this episode, please? Because we've used their name a few times. We can send to them. Thanks to Anaros, I learned how to have a powerful, self-directed prostate orgasm. Thank you so much.
A progasm. Like they like a progasm.
Yes.
A professional orgasm.
Yes, a professional prostate orgasm. So this is the work that we're doing in the pandemic. It's different. It's different from what I thought it would be.
Oh man.
It's good. It's good. And,
but I mean, it's not just for penis. It's geared towards penis owners. But I feel like I would try.
Yeah, why not? I think you could. I feel like a little Google search of like, is an Anaros effective for non-penis owners or for AFAB people? Right. Because your internal structure is a little bit different. Yeah. But I feel like it's actually similar, and I think that the prostate and the G-spot are actually in the same place, essentially. Yes. So that's why anal sex is pleasurable, because it's basically like hitting up on the G-spot from the other side. Right. So
I just thought about that, because when I have anal, and if they hit me in the right spot, I still orgasm from it, but it's different. It's just not the same.
Yes. So
it's
a different sensation.
I might need to try this anaerobe.
Yeah,
too.
I'm so curious about that. I feel like I've never talked to women in depth about like what an anal orgasm experience is.
It definitely just feels like, and I was kind of talking about this on my Patreon with Kaven, this last episode that just premiered. Like it feels almost like I don't know, like it's kind of like that itch, you know, like when you're like scratching a dog in a certain spot and they can't stop scratching. It's like when you hit that spot, like I can't help but like my body reacts to it, and I can't help but like just I've kind of toyed, or I don't know how to describe it. Like I definitely just start like almost, I wouldn't say yelling like a hyena, but like I cannot stop making noise. It's like the way that it hits, but like I haven't had that in a long time.
Wow.
It's happened a few times, but yeah, it's an orgasm, but it's not in the way where like it's more along the lines of the orgasm where I can keep having multiple versions of it. Like I can keep having, as long as they're in that spot, I can go for however long. I may get worn out after a while, but like even if I were to take like, I don't know, a 2-minute break and they would go again, like it would be the same thing.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Man, women are blessed. Like y'all are really blessed. Y'all are blessed, like in terms of like the all the ways that you can experience pleasure versus like versus, you know, like AMAB people. I feel like we're really limited in terms of, or our scope of our idea of what could be pleasurable is so narrow.
I think it's because there's only so much, at least within an AMAB's world, that y'all have been given or presented with, you know?
Right, yes.
We're still on this journey to finding out what else AMAB folk are able to experience sexually. Like there's still more things out there we just don't know about yet.
That's so true. That also like, that just
I think
stimulated me and moved me into like this, I feel like there would just be fewer wars. There would be
everybody
access pleasure in a different way.
Everybody just get a free anaerobes.
Yes, because that energy needs to go somewhere,
right?
And it brings me to there's another podcast that I listen to sometimes that someone turned me onto this summer. That's called For the Wild. Have you heard of it?
I haven't.
It's so good.
Podcast?
It's not a sex podcast. It's more of like a kind of, but I feel like it's spiritually in orbit with your podcast in terms of like, it's like people who are oriented like more in a radical direction. It's sort of more spiritual folks, but like folks running the gamut of practice and intellectualism and everything. Yeah. And there's a woman, I think they're actually a non-binary person named Bronte Velez, who's been on the show a few times, who everybody needs to know about. Look up Bronte Velez, BRONTE space VELEZ. Donate to all their shit. And they're on the podcast a few times. But one of the episodes that they do is a double episode. And the first episode is it's called the pleasurable surrender of white supremacy, and it is so good. I love that title. Yes, it is amazing, and that's what they talk about. They don't have all the answers, but you know, one thing that they outline is like the this idea of us, but like specifically talking about white men sort of being in a sub-dom relationship with the planet at this point, where Mother Earth is playing like dominatrix, and white men who hold power are being basically forced into submission. And like imagining the possibilities, what could it be like if that submission were pleasurable, instead of seeing it as this process of like loss and resistance, and like if you could experience giving away your privilege, giving away your things as an act of pleasure, like in the same way where, you know, if you're in a sub-dom dynamic, there's pleasure in sort of things being taken or done to you and just like surrendering and giving up. So they talk about that dynamic, but then they also talk about like ecosexuality, which I think is really fascinating. And that just,
what is that?
Ecosexuality, from what I understand, is like you have sexual experiences with the natural world. So like,
okay.
My example that I always give for me is like on a partly cloudy day that's like 80 degrees, when the clouds move out from in front of the sun and the sun comes out again, and it just like warms your body.
Yeah.
After you've been like a little chilly. To me, that is an extremely sexual experience. Like that is a deep sensory sexual experience.
Oh.
And like, I feel like it's probably like that for a lot of people. Like if you actually experience what that's like in your body, like all your nerves being activated at the same time and like, you know, stimulated and what that's like. So I'm also interested in, again, for AMAB people and all people to tap into the possibilities of what, you know, what it might be like if you just expanded not even your notion of like what is pleasurable in terms of human touch or toys, but like sexuality in general, like the experience of swimming in the ocean and like twirling around and like being taken by the waves and all of that, like that could be seen as sexual. Like awaken your spirit, awaken your body. Yeah.
Letting nature take you for a little bit, take you on a ride.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like we need a more expansive thing. And I feel like not all vagina owners or AFAB people are like attuned with their sexuality and their sexual, you know, their pleasure centers and everything. But I do think that women in general tend to be a little bit more attuned, intuitive when it comes to their bodies if they have the opportunity to get there. I feel like women who unlock sort of the secrets of what their bodies can do, there's just this like whole buffet of things that like, we could go here, we could do this. Like, you know, there's just, it almost feels unlimited. And I feel like AMAB people are
you got like 15 different types of cheeses to choose from.
Exactly. Like amazing. And AMAB people think that there's just like one or two. For women also, they think there's just one or two.
Yeah.
And you know, sucking on those titties, that game, like that is nice for some women, but for some women it's just weird. It doesn't feel good. So it's like, it's really more for you than it is for them.
Yeah. And the funny thing is like at first, at least for me personally, I didn't get anything out of when folks would suck my titties. I was just like, what are you doing? It's not doing anything. But now, I don't know, something woke up around there. Now I like it. I wouldn't say, I don't want it to be like the main buffet or whatever, but like I definitely enjoy the sensations of it.
Yes.
And like, and I hate to say like foreplay. I'm starting to not really like to use the word foreplay and play and anything, because that just means that
you're building to something.
Yeah.
You're building to penetrative sex, right?
Right. And I even feel like with foreplay, that's more, people tend to see foreplay more along the lines just for like the vagina owner or like the woman. And like, I don't know. I want to find like another term to use that's not foreplay, because then I guess also, there is a expectation that there is something after, and foreplay doesn't have to and technically end in sex.
Exactly. Foreplay is sex. It is sex.
Should be considered sex.
Yes. Yeah.
And especially on what you're trying to say what sex is, because not everybody has the means to penetrate another person, if you know what I mean. And they're still having sex. They just can't penetrate, whatever. You know?
That's right. And you know what? I'm thinking about our little pre-conversation yesterday too, when I talked about some of the things that I was like, this could come up while we're doing our podcast. And you were like, yeah, like sometimes like I feel like I am a sex worker sometimes. Like I feel like I am working when I'm having sex with somebody. And I feel like literally what you're talking about right now in terms of like trying to teach people or to just like open the conversation, broaden the understanding of what sex is, or like, you know, that foreplay is the journey, or foreplay is the destination. It's not just like a stop on the ride to PIV or PIA or whatever we want to say. Sex or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just want to affirm that for you, because, you know, it's and that I think that is work that sex workers are doing, where it's like, so totally like trying to deconstruct, tear down, in some cases again, what the sort of the porn addicted sex culture that we live in, that I think produces all kinds of other ailments, insecurities, impotency, or whatever you want to call that. And I also just want to say about the foreplay with regards to like doing sex work or giving these massages, when I'm giving an erotic massage and I can feel that someone is really feeling it and into it and it's doing things, I am so turned on. Like foreplay turns me on so much when I am performing it, when it is being received in a pleasurable way. Like the experience of offering it is deeply pleasurable.
But like also, I think that's a gift that you can like perform it, or in a way, like I wouldn't say like
offer it in a way, like
offer it, but like know how to use it. It's like people that are seasoned on stage as performers themselves. Like they're good at doing it on the spot, and they're also good at doing it when they've rehearsed like the last 2-3 months or whatever.
Exactly.
Like it's the same thing with sex and sex work or what have you. Just sex in general. Like it's a practice. And I guess the thing is, the only difference is that depending on who you're having it with, it's going to change how you feed that audience.
Yes.
Every audience, depending on your audience,
right,
will depend on how you have to deliver.
Dude, and what you're saying could take us in so many different directions. I'm just gonna say first that like it's all about presence. It's all about presence. That's also why a spiritual practice can be very helpful, because it's like all that shit that your friend said, that this is the trick that you need to use, or that you saw in porn, or that your last lover liked, or whatever. That is like data, but you kind of need to throw that out the window when you're with a new person and really just pay attention to what they're asking for. What they're asking for, and also what their body is telling you with the signs and the way that it's reacting to touch. Like not everyone is going to like the same things, and you have to constantly be in that practice of presence. And I feel like, I personally derive honestly, like I'm happy to be talking about this because I am too. I'm really happy. Yeah, this is like giving me a buzz. This is giving me a buzz. I love doing this work. Like I really love it. I derive a lot of joy, pleasure. Sometimes I'm like, it almost feels like a scam that people are paying me money for it. But I'm like, but it doesn't, because I am offering something that is different from what the person is used to, and will send them out in a elevated state from where they came in, and also might have like a reverberation in their life outside of being here, just from one experience, just like showing them that there's a different way that they can relate to their own sexuality.
Right. And then they can also pass that along to somebody else.
Exactly. And another thing about it is that like, I really feel like presence is everything right now. And unfortunately, we live in an extremely erratic, extremely distracted, extremely, I'm on my phone and I'm half listening to this conversation and I'm thinking about what I need to do next situation, which is, I think is killing us as like a culture and as a world, because like the work right now, and tying it back to like election stuff, tying it back to like the environment and all of that, is to be present with the state of things as they are right now. We really need people to be still. And that's what COVID did for a second. It just allowed us to like take a breath and be like, okay, turn off all that noise. What is actually happening right now? What is the world going through? What is the state of our planet? And when we're paying attention to those things, we inevitably make different choices, because there's a different truth that reveals itself. But the problem is that most of us don't have the time to do that. We're working, what I described about our lives pre-COVID, that like we were all over the place. We were working this job full time, thinking about a million things, unhappy, living with my ex, which we can come back to at some point if you want to. Just so many distractions that make it so impossible to just be like, what is the world saying? What is the world asking of us? And then being able to like creatively figure out how we're going to do those things.
Yes.
And I crave that. I really crave that, like that process.
I do too.
Yeah.
And you always have to remind yourself to do it too, especially like you said, this time. And I want to be more like, and this is why I love my podcast and like Self-Aware Millennial, because not only do I try to hold myself accountable to these things, but I hold others accountable. But I think it's important for me to be able to hold myself accountable first. So I have to be that present person and understanding what it feels like to be present before I can tell someone else to be present, if that makes sense. Yes. So if I'm not present, then I can't help anyone else get to that presence that they are searching for.
That's right.
So in the regard of the podcast, and I'm so thankful that you brought this up, because like this is something, the dialogue I've been trying to figure out the whole time I've been basically doing this podcast. Because I started this podcast right before quarantine, and I have been trying to describe how I've been feeling and like how I felt, like especially once like George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, and that whole revolution kind of spiked in June. I was trying to understand how the world was feeling at that point. I mean, we were all present, finally, seeing what was happening. What had been happening.
Yes.
We just hadn't had the time to sit and like stand and like acknowledge it because of our everyday lives. So I like that. Like we weren't present, but at that point we were present.
Yes.
Because we had no choice.
Yes. That's everything.
Yeah.
I just want to sit on that for a second.
Yes. I want to get back to that. I want the world to get back to that. But the issue is like, I feel like we're in a moment where we can't be there because we're so anxious about the next couple of days with the election. Well,
I've been saying this for the last couple of months. I mean, I really don't know a lot of conspiracy theories. My roommate, who is amazing, and you should definitely meet her. She's a yoga teacher. She's an incredible Black woman. Her name is Ashley Gemini. I wonder if I know her. She knows of you and she knows of your podcast. Honestly, y'all should talk. And she's like fucking brilliant.
You know her. I feel like I've heard that name before.
But she says about, conspiracy theories. She's like, hit me with it. Like, I want to understand. Like, if you have data and information that I don't know, like, convince me. I want to be convinced. But the problem with a lot of conspiracy theories is you just cannot actually convince people of them because at the end of the day, they don't really hold together. So what I'm going to say is not really a conspiracy theory, but it's just, I think, an observation, but maybe it's a conspiracy theory. I don't know. I guess it depends on who is reacting to what I'm saying. But that, for a good few months in the pandemic, a lot of us were getting that unemployment. We were getting, making as much or more money than what we were making before.
I was making so much.
Yes. And essentially getting paid to be community organizers. We were getting paid to protest the government. We were getting paid to be present.
Yeah.
And I think that the government caught on to that and they were like, no more of that. I think that was kind of a conscious thing because it's like when you don't need to worry about where your money is coming from. You don't need to worry about paying your rent. You don't need to worry about being able to afford food. You're literally just trying to avoid a very contagious pandemic that could kill you. So I guess that is kind of a large looming threat, but it's different. It functions differently from the other ones because the other ones, there's basically no way to live your life in its sort of fullest, most actualized present state while taking care of those things. Like you ultimately, in order to pay your bills, in order to exist in these American states, you basically have to sign a certain amount of yourself away. Or for most people, you have to sign a certain amount of yourself away.
Yeah.
To avoid
your hopes
COVID,
and dreams, man. Like a lot of people can't even, like, there's so many people working jobs that they rather not be doing right now.
You have no flexibility to like manifest like your purpose and your path. Yeah. And so during that part of the pandemic, I think that we actually changed course, and it was so powerful. And I think that the powers that be kind of caught on to that, and they were like, well, we're going to nip this shit in the bud, because we can't have, like, if that had continued for more months, like, imagine what if people hadn't had to just like go back to work, or hadn't, you know, because the shift really happened. I feel there was all of June was so empowered and growth oriented, and even the beginning of July. And then leading up to that, like end of July, end of the unemployment boost, and people being like, shit, how am I going to pay my bills? Am I going to get evicted? Suddenly the anxiety, the depression took over. We went back into our like worst case scenario, fear oriented state. And presence became very, very difficult or impossible for a lot of folks. You know, I am feeling... Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he's going to listen to the podcast. Maybe he does, it's okay, because he knows how I feel about it. But my ex, who was over here the other night, you know, he used to live in this house, and we went through our whole experience and process. And he came over, and we were just playing music for a few hours. Yeah. And it was so sweet. And then he was telling me afterwards about, you know, his job hunt and how, you know, it's been kind of... it's induced a lot of stress and anxiety, and like has pushed him to some pretty dark spaces. And he's been doing like carpentry work basically to move through to basically pay his bills. Yeah. And he's been making these raised beds like for gardening out of pallets, like out of wood pallets. He's been like repurposing them and building these beautiful... I have one in front of my house. They're beautiful. Ooh. Like they're so good and they're so functional, and that's how he's been supporting himself. But he was just telling me yesterday about an interview for a job where he'd be like the front desk manager of some hotel job. And, you know, he'd be making a lot of money, and he's excited about that.
The money.
And to have stability, which is like, that is so real for so many people. But again, it's like what that reflects is, it's a shift from this like visionary, dreaming, sort of creative minded, not a full departure. It's a shift from it. You can always go back to it.
But you can't shift as much of your time to
it. It's a shift from that because you're giving yourself to a corporation that is then going to use your gifts for their own, you know, capitalist benefit.
Yes.
And it's pulling you away from that collective space of dreaming, envisioning, world building, revolution, all of that. Yeah. And I feel like that is where a lot of people were. It was actually difficult for me to like, and I think that this is just something we have to be in practice of, to receive that information and to just be like, I mean, I've been rewatching Insecure, and something that they say on
I love Insecure.
If they say, if you like it, we love it. Like if you like it, I love it. Like I support you. I want you to have the things that you want for yourself. And also there's some sadness, you know, in terms of people having to, for their own survival, turn away from, you know, more communal, socialist, revolutionary ideals and practice back into a pandemic-ridden capitalist economy because there has been no support. But that's what the government wants. They don't want us, because it's a threat. Our presence is a threat.
Yeah.
Our presence in the street is a threat, and our presence in our own bodies and in our sexuality and our pleasure, in our relationships, in our existence is the biggest threat. That is the biggest threat that there is. That is the biggest threat that there is to capitalism, is our healing and our presence. I really believe that.
Lex. My goodness. I could go on and talk to you for the rest of the night.
We should. Maybe not tonight, but we should definitely.
I feel like at least for like, I don't mind continue talking to you, but I gotta wrap this podcast up.
Yes.
Continue talking after that.
Yeah.
But before we get out of here, because this is already going to be a 2-part episode, I already know it. I wanted to quickly just talk about what you learned about your self-awareness from just this discussion alone.
Oh my God.
I know one thing. Every single time I have conversations like this, that we really like deeply talk about things of that nature, that I would find that at least most people that I talk to, it's just a little bit more difficult to maybe get into the mindset, the energies of understanding of what self-awareness is, and like the conversations that are had with self-aware people versus those that are kind of removed because they're working and they're kind of living in that capitalist society and they can't really sit down and like take a breather or whatnot, like just kind of living and talking with people that are still in that are still what we consider present.
Yes. Yes.
And I find you a very present person. I find that the self-awareness portion of it, I feel like my self-awareness, I find I get more self-awareness by gathering self-awareness from other people, and your self-awareness for sure. I'm like, dang, okay, there's a lot of alignment.
Oh, so, yeah. Yes.
That's what I've learned.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That feels like a blessing. I have felt so safe in this conversation, and I felt I really feel like I'm a reflection of you, and I feel like you're a reflection of me. Like I feel so.
It takes a community.
Yes. I feel like I'm just like everything is buzzing right now. Like I'm just like yes. So I definitely learned that there's a connection that we share, and I also understand the importance of like feeling safe with somebody, but also feeling that feeling that you are interested in what I have to say.
Yes.
Like, I can't have these conversations with everyone. There are people who like I would love to be talking about any and all of the things that we started talking about here with anybody that I'm connected to. But I notice sometimes I'll start talking about something, or I'll move into a conversation and there's immediate like discomfort or pushback, or like, whoa, what are you talking about? You're talking about like body, or like, you know, even with my ex, like I have mentioned a few times that I'm doing, you know, this sex work or whatever. I'll start sort of talking about it, and immediately I can just feel
the tension.
And I would just love to like feel free, but for whatever reason, there isn't that understanding and that safety. And I just feel that I felt that so immediately with you. So that's essential. What can we do for each other to proactively offer a safe space, to be like, hey, like you are safe with me?
I think first is the invitation. It's like, you can't come onto this podcast unless you are ready to be vulnerable and know that you are safe here. Yes. And that whatever you want to say will be safe here.
Yes.
Even after the recording is over and you feel like you don't want me to put whatever you said in, I will take it out. I'm the one editing these things. So, you know, I can do that for you.
Yeah.
I just try to create that space for folks. And I just feel overall, with every guest that I've had, it's just gotten even more. I've definitely gotten more and more clarity as to the direction that I'm going with it. And that's, I think amazing. The main thing is just that I want to basically hear what's on people's minds, the main things that they want to talk about that they have been holding in, especially right now during the quarantine, COVID-19. Everybody has their different struggles. I'm not trying to be a therapist or anything, but like, I want to be like an outlet for folks.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Well,
and you're doing the work. You're doing the good work.
I'm trying.
I appreciate it. I appreciate this experience so much, and I've appreciated the episodes and the parts of the episodes that I've gotten to see as well. It's
thank you, Lex.
Really, really beautiful. Please keep doing it. And
I will.
Please have me back. I want to come back.
You will be back. What are you talking about? There's no question. Okay, well, Lex, can you give everybody your socials just so that if they want to follow you, they can?
Sure. Yes. You could follow me at Great Lexpectations on Instagram. That's at GreatLexpectations. PECTATIONS. It is a pun on a Charles Dickens book, I believe. Great Expectations, except with an L in there. And I'm also on Facebook. I don't use it as often. And yeah, just, message me on Instagram, call me. You can find me on the apps. I'm there apps. Sometimes. And I like to date and meet people and have conversations and get intimate with people. I like intimacy too outside of work as well. I think that's maybe another conversation for another time.
Yes.
That sex workers also enjoy a lot of the time the work that they do, but also like to have experiences that are outside of the work that they do. So
yes, that's true.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't believe how many things we talked about. So many things, and it's like we didn't even talk about music. We didn't talk about music at all. We didn't talk. This is great. This is a great deepening of our friendship.
Yes, it is. Because I'm gonna have to go back and take notes as to the things that we have not talked about that we have to really bring back up.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you guys, if you have any suggestions on future things you'd like me to cover on the Self-Aware Millennial, please email theselfawaremillennial@gmail.com or follow me or DM me on Instagram at @theselfawaremillennial. If you like me so much, even if you like Lex more than you like me, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Give this place, yes, on Apple Podcasts. Thank you. And if you've listened to all the available episodes and want more self-awareness clarity, join TSAM'S Patreon, where you will find bonus episodes, video recordings that didn't make the show, which will definitely be some more conversations that Lex and I are about to have, and a bunch of self-reflection excerpts from yours truly. And you can follow that by going to www.patreon.com/theselfawaremillennial. All right, y'all. This is going to be a 2-part episode for sure. Yes. So this episode is going to be presented to you in 2 parts. And I hope that you enjoy both parts. Actually, I probably shouldn't say that. I should say that at the beginning, which I'll go back and do when I do that later. I'll edit all this out. All right, you guys. I'm going to talk to y'all later. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy both of the episodes you're going to get this week, or that you got this week. Bye!
Bye!